So I'm talking about the transformation of the media landscape because broadcast and communications are now existing in the same medium. We used to be able to keep the TV separate from the telephone, but now we've got a world where people are publishing and conversing in the same platform. And we're getting all of these kind of crazy hybrids of photos with conversations around them, collaboratively produced articles on wikis, people annotating video. And it's that cross-fertilization that I think is both exciting and, for traditional media players, a little scary. The media industry as a whole faces two challenges that are really flip sides of the same coin. On the demand side, as it were, the advertising-supported model that everyone has adopted for obvious reasons is now under enormous pressure. Right? The network just is a different kind. The internet is a different kind of environment for ads, and people are scrambling to figure out how does my business model translate versus being adapted. The supply side challenge, which is the other part of that same coin, is how can media businesses engage in lots and lots of low-cost experimentation? Right? Media has historically worked itself into a kind of hit-driven industry where lots and lots and lots of effort is gathered around predicting and then grooming hits. And all of a sudden we have an environment where, you know, an individual kid coming along and playing his guitar for 5 minutes on YouTube gets 50 million viewers. So there clearly needs to be some change in culture where you can afford, a media business can afford lots and lots of low-cost experimentation and then cherry-pick what works. That's a big cultural shift, but I think it's necessary to meet the demand-side shift, as it were, to figure out the new business models. Years ago, 10 years ago, in fact, when I was the chief technology officer of a web design firm in New York, I remember saying to our lead account executive, nobody's going to buy internet ads until there was a recession. It was very, very difficult 10 years ago to sell anybody on spending any real money advertising on the internet. And lo and behold, the recession came along, everybody's budgets went down, and then they came back differentially. Recessions are really the time when it's a good time to start something new. This time, though, I think enough people in traditional media businesses are aware of the shift that they're going to be jumping ship either to start those businesses or to join those businesses. And so we're going to see at the end of this crisis, however long it takes, I think an increased hybridization between old and new media rather than the current sort of conflict that's the contemporary model. These kind of events are really useful as talking shops, right? They are much more than any kind of official channel. They're the place where novelty gets exposed, right? Because if someone inside one of these organizations has figured out something interesting, right, it can ripple through this kind of crowd very quickly. And the art of doing one of these conferences, in a way, is I say this as a speaker, is frankly to leave enough time between speakers that people can actually do that kind of lateral conversation. The two big deals for me are, once you're operating at internet scale, once you're operating at population scale that's larger than any nation, the first thing is that a low probability event over multiple tries becomes a likelihood, right? Wikipedia is just a series of flukes. Oh, it's really flukish that we found the person who's completely obsessed with Doctor Who and helped create this great article. And yet, because of the way Wikipedia works, it's this curious case of being a likely fluke. Yes, it's flukish about that individual, but Wikipedia operates at the scale that lets that happen. And the related observation is the cost of trying things is now generally lower than the cost of sitting around trying to figure out whether or not they're a good idea. And those two things together mean that I think for traditional businesses, trying small things at large scale works a lot better than trying large things at small scale. It's a big cultural shift, but it's one I think that is going to characterize the industry as a whole.